Hello and welcome everyone to the first ever update from Canberra, from Australian Grape and Wine's office just down the road from Parliament House. My name's Lee McLean. I'm the General Manager for Government Relations and External Affairs at Australian Grape and Wine, and with me I have Tony Battaglene, our CEO. Today we thought we would provide members with an update with a bit of a trade focus. Given things happening in China and elsewhere, we thought that was the prominent issue that people would want to know about. Clearly, China has dominated our time in recent weeks. It's a very concerning issue with a lot of movement and a lot of uncertainty associated with it, not only for wine, but for other agricultural commodities as well. Tony, how do you see the situation at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Lee, and welcome to all our listeners here. Well, the situation is very, very fluid. I guess it's noted by the uncertainty. We have very little facts at hand. So just to recap a little, just for the benefit of everyone, we were subject to an anti-dumping and a countervailing duties investigation launched in August from the Ministry of Commerce in China. Basically, this means that they're accusing the Australian industry of exporting subsidised product at below the price we sell at the domestic market. Of course, we refute all these allegations, but it's been a very complex process to get to where we are today. And where we are today is that we are about to fill in some detailed questionnaires. They are due into the Ministry of Commerce by Friday the 13th, a very auspicious date, I think. And following that, the Ministry of Commerce will make a decision based on the facts and before them of whether they should put a countervailing duty or an import duty on us. The duties they're talking around 200%. So we are going to be submitting these. We've been cooperating in good faith, and they will go in on Friday and on Sunday. There are two separate investigations. What's confounded all this has been the recent discussions in the media about the market being closed last Friday. What has happened is there is no official confirmation of that, and we have seen that some product is still going into the market. We're also seeing a lot of importers telling their exporters not to export. So that it's the only thing that is certain is the uncertainty. So what we're seeing is the products that's going in is subject to increased scrutiny, increased compliance measures, increased testing, including testing for some things that just do not occur in wine. So if you are sending wine to China, it's fraught with difficulty at the moment. We don't know how long this will last. We don't know to the extent of the stoppages at the border, and we don't know just what product is getting through, if any. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and which we're trying to understand. So I guess, Lee, the thing that I would urge is caution here. We are trying to control our messages to the media very tightly. We do not know exactly what's happening, but I tell you what, if anyone hears, and if anyone's got a shipment going to China, please let us know. Please let us know what's happening at the border so we can understand more. Thanks, Lee.
Absolutely. It's a really challenging time. And from a government relations perspective, we're certainly spending a lot of time talking to the various ministers' offices to provide briefings about this issue, and we'll continue to do that over the coming weeks and months ahead as things become more certain. There are a few other trade issues on the agenda as well at the moment, particularly around the free trade agreement negotiations that are underway. Members will know that Australian Grape and Wine's been really active, particularly in relation to allowing or advocating for the continued access to the use of the grape variety Prosecco in particular. And I was personally really pleased to see Senator Bridget McKenzie last week at Senate Estimates posing some really solid questions to DFAT about what the Australian government is doing to help protect those rights of Australian grape growers and winemakers. And we've made sure we've followed up with her office to continue to provide briefings about that. Now, Tony, you sit on Minister Birmingham's Trade Advisory Council, which is a great opportunity for the sector. How do you see the FTA agenda sort of progressing over the coming months?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. And it is a privilege to sit on the Ministerial Advisory Council for Trade. And it's with a lot of business people from a whole lot of different sectors around Australia. Was chaired by Christine Holgate from Australia Post until recently. I suspect we'll have a new chair for our meeting that's coming up next week. The big issue, of course, that we're discussing are the two free trade agreements in negotiation with both the United Kingdom and with the European Union. These are separate free trade agreement negotiations, but obviously we've got a lot of common issues in the fact that we export product to the UK, which is then re-exported to the EU and vice versa. Obviously, the critical element of these discussions is how you treat geographical indications, and for us, how you treat grape varieties. Quite rightly, we're getting a lot of support from the government on the Prosecco issue. And let me tell you, it's not just about maintaining our right to use the grape variety of Prosecco, but it's Montepulciano, it's Vermentino. There are a whole range of other GIs, or you call grape varieties, that are under question. And these are things that we need to protect our rights. So we're not about trying to take rights of the Europeans from what are traditionally owned names. These are actually well-known international grape variety rights. A whole lot of other things, though, in the negotiations, Lee, particularly around some of the technical market access issues. And these concern things like the VI1 forms. If you export to Europe and to the UK at the moment, use a VI1 form. And the question is, how is this dealt with once we have Brexit? So Brexit, again, is making it a really interesting time while we're trying to negotiate these. So there's a lot of effort going. There's another discussion about geographical indications with the EU coming up later next week, and there will be another round of negotiations also commencing. The good thing is the government hears us, they understand us, and we're in close communication. So I think that we know that we're going to be in this game for a long, long time, and I'm confident that we're going to get a good result for the Australian wine sector, the Australian grape and wine sector, when these negotiations conclude.
Certainly, it's a fascinating time for trade, and the sort of overlay with all that, of course, is the change of administration in the United States next year, which I personally hope will bring some greater certainty for business and for exporters around the world. Do you see that having any impact on Australia's exports?
Yeah, I do. I think that having the new administration will create some changes. Hopefully it will create a bit of a pressure valve for some of the international geopolitical tension that we're seeing. So it will also create a strategic change in the balance. So at the moment, we're seeing America first. And so under the Trump administration, the US has been alienating itself from some of its close allies. It sees itself in direct competition with China. That doesn't do any of us any goods. We believe that we should be able to both have a trading relationship and a strategic discussion with our major trading partners. What I believe will happen is that we'll see a much greater focus on international trade fora. We'll see more support for the World Trade Organization. That will be very useful for us. As a small country, Australia relies on the international market trading rules. And in fact, we've just had a major success against Canada in the World Trade Organization, where we've managed to get rid of some very serious technical trade barriers to Australian product and some favourable treatment to the Canadian product. So I think there's going to be an opening up, a relief of tension, and I think we're going to see a much more collaborative international trading environment. And I think that's got to be good for our sector. I think the other point, Lee, that's really important is that both with our negotiations with Europe, the UK, and also with the US opening up, I believe, is that with the market diversification push that we will need to do, obviously nothing can replace China, but there's a real opportunity to build on those markets. And I think there's some real opportunity for all Australian exporters there.
I agree. And I think those some very insightful comments. So I don't have any more questions for you, Tony. So I think we might wrap it up there unless you've got anything else to add.
Yeah, no, I'd just like to say, look, this is a great opportunity for us to get out and talk to people. Please tell us what topics you would like us to talk about. We cover so much area within our portfolios in our organisation. We haven't got many people, but I tell you what, we cover a lot of ground. So if you're interested in something, just let us know, and we'll put that as the subject of our next Canberra studio discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.